Okay, I want to walk you through taking our first quiz of the year in Edulastic. So, from the Google Classroom, you go to classwork like normally, and you'll see today's quiz is the Watsons Go to Birmingham assignment. And you can just click on the link for Edulastic. Of course, with most of our applications, you sign in with Google. It's going to ask you to allow access to your Google account, which of course you'll need to do. And then your quiz should just start right up. Okay. Now, so this is the Watsons Go to Birmingham quiz for chapters 1 through 5. So I'm just going to read the questions and kind of talk a little bit about the format, right? Why was Kenny called Poindexter? You know what this nickname is all about, Poindexter, so you choose your answer. After choosing your answer, you'll click Next. I'm just going to skip these because the answers are there, right? Question number 2, drag the description of the correct character. Some characters will have 2 descriptions, others will have 1. Okay, so I need to drag an answer, click on it and drag it. Now notice when this dotted line becomes blue, that's when I can let it go. If I think, nope, that's not the right answer, I can just pull it back over there or put it in a different box. So this dotted line turns blue, and that's when you can let go, right? If you try to pull it and the box isn't blue, it doesn't let it stick, right? Now it already says that there are some characters that have 2 things in here. So you can put 2 answers in one box. Yes, you will use all of these answers. So make sure that you do use them, and you need to know which character has 2 boxes. Who was born in a southern state? Hopefully you remember that one. When Byron says, give my regards to Clark Poindexter, what does he mean? This was in chapter 2 that we read aloud in class, right? What does that signify for Kenny? According to Byron, what is the function of the garbage trucks? Right, this was the chapter Froze Up Southern Folks. So what are those garbage trucks all about in the story that he tells about the garbage trucks? What is the main reason Mrs. Watson wants to burn Byron? Right, this is that scene when she's burning his fingertips because he was playing with matches. And we're looking for the main reason. There are multiple reasons, but what do you think her intent is for trying to teach that lesson? What does Kenny learn when he almost loses Rufus as a friend? Right? You might recall that he kind of gets some of his mom's help to get Rufus back. But what is the lesson that he learns because he almost loses Rufus as a friend? Number 8, what can we infer about Kenny from the following passage? Every day at lunchtime, he, meaning Rufus, followed me out to the playground and ate half of my second sandwich, then sneaked the other half to Cody. So what can we infer about Kenny? That's what the question's asking, not about Rufus or Cody, but what can we infer about Kenny when he's observing that Rufus follows him out, eats half of the second sandwich, and then leaves part of it for Cody? Okay, it's a little bit tricky. Question 9, now you'll notice that there is part A, part B, part C, part D, right? This is kind of an extension of question 8. For each answer choice for the last question, explain why that answer choice is either correct or incorrect, using your knowledge of the events of the story and the quotation as evidence to support your answers. So the question, what can we infer about Kenny from that playground passage that we just had on question 8. Now it's asking you to break down every single answer choice. So your first choice was that Kenny has a poor appetite. Okay, so in here, if you're thinking that was a correct answer for number 8, you're going to tell us why. And if you're thinking that was an incorrect answer for number 8, then you tell us why. Don't just say it's wrong or bad choice or IDK, right? Make sure that you put an answer in there. Answer choice A is wrong because Kenny doesn't have a poor appetite. He always eats all of his lunch, or whatever your answer might be. Make sure that you're thorough. Choice B, that he's a kind and giving person. Why is that correct or incorrect? Choice C, why does Kenny feel bad, or do you think that Kenny does feel bad for Rufus and Cody? Explain that. And then answer choice D, Kenny selfishly trades his food for friendship. You think that's a correct or an incorrect answer, you're explaining why. Okay, so this is the giving evidence part. This is what we've been doing for this whole first month of school, is providing evidence for our answers. So this is asking you to write it out. Don't worry about perfect grammar or spelling. As long as I can understand your answer, then it's going to be correct. Well, or the answer will be accepted, rather. If it's the correct answer, then it will be correct. Question 10, when Mr. Watson sees Byron stuck to the mirror, he laughs. What does this reveal about Mr. Watson's character? What kind of guy is he? We've talked about this in class specifically. Number 11, what does the following selection from the passage show us about Rufus? So we're looking for characterization details about Rufus. Notice these are squares, which means that you can choose all that apply. So it will accept multiple answers there. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Number 12, during the Great Carp Escape with Larry Dunn, Kenny explains, I knew Byron wasn't trying to help anymore. He was just being mean. What does this event in the story show us about Byron's character? Notice again, these are squares. Select all that apply. So you're probably going to have more than one answer on that, right? That should be a hint. Number 13, Daniel Watson uses this idiom in the passage to tell us how he feels about the landlord. You know that an idiom is a commonly used expression. Dad called the landlord for the 100th time. The phone was still busy. That snake in the grass has his phone off the hook. Right? That's from the very first chapter of the book. We can infer that the landlord is all of the following except what? Is the landlord not sneaky? Is the landlord not deceitful? Is the landlord not an imaginary person? Is the landlord a perfidious person? Well, if you don't know what perfidious means, it says, you may not know all of these terms, but use your best test-taking skills to decide which is the most likely correct answer. What do you do when you're taking a test and you don't know the word? You start eliminating options. So use those test-taking skills. 14, Mr. Alums might as well have tied me up to a pole and said, ready, aim, fire. Why does the narrator continue to use this saying, ready, aim, fire, throughout the book? What is he trying to use with that expression? Match the quotation on the left to the definition of the term on the right. Use the context clues and your knowledge of the story to help you understand the meaning of the word that is being asked about. Scroll down to make sure that you have seen all the quotations. Not all definitions will be used. So that means we'll have some extras. All right, so we're looking for, this is vocabulary section, right? So the line, Mr. Alums told the class, I've often told you that as Negroes, the world is many times a hostile place for us. What does hostile mean, right? So then you're trying to find the word or the definition that matches up with hostile And then again, you drag it. Notice how the dotted lines turn blue. That's when you know that you can let it go and it'll stay over there. You want to take it back. It looks like you can't. But what you can do is just do something else on top of it and it'll switch it and pull your other one out. Okay? So, doesn't look like you can take it back out. Oh, yes, you can. That one took it out, right? So you can drag it back and forth. Okay, so hostile, tempted, vital, desperate, right? And the last word is jabbering that you're using for vocabulary. Question 16, what type of figurative language is being used in this quotation? I knew she was fishing to find the right answer. Okay, so I've never heard that expression before if somebody is fishing for something. And so what kind of figurative language is that? Those are your options. Question 17, the teacher, Mr. Lums, brings Kenny to Byron's class and to read. He said, and Byron Watson, if you are incapable of taking some of the fire out of your eyes, I assure you I will find a way to assist you. What does Mr. Lums mean when he uses the idiom? He's using the expression taking some fire out of your eyes. What is that about? I'm choosing your option. And then the last question, what type of figurative language is being used in the quotation? The Langston Hughes book jumped from my hand and the whole class laughed. So this is the point where Kenny is standing in front of the class reading a Langston Hughes book. What does it mean to have it jump out of his hands? Okay. When you are done, you should click submit for your test. And again, it's going to warn you about not having things submitted, and it'll give you this review and submit page. Once you have answered the questions, they'll all be blue. If you see any gray, that means you've skipped things, and so you need to click on it to go back to that question. Okay? It'll take you just right back to it. Then you can keep going through and double check all your answers. Once you get to the very end of the test again, so we have to go all the way to the very end. So if you leave something blank, it warns you. So don't leave anything blank. Make sure that you go back and at the very least eliminate the wrong choices to narrow it down. Okay? So you should have blues in all of these boxes, okay? Because you've answered them. If you've bookmarked something to come back to, then it'll be yellow, okay? And then it'll just go through all of them. When you're ready to submit for the final time, click submit, and then your work will be graded. And that question, there is one question that we teachers need to grade, so your score will not be submitted to you until after we have evaluated the whole test, and then the score will be released. Okay? So please take your time with this quiz. It's important that you think through the things that we've talked about in class. You've got a lot of notes and resources that can help you as you're preparing for it, including vocabulary, the Venn diagrams, the figurative language stuff. All of those things you should definitely be reviewing as you take the test. Okay? Take your time and do your best.